Today's conversation is a little bit of a departure from what we normally do on What's Working Now. Today, I'm talking with Nate Zeleznick, and I'm curious about life and the world, and I have evidences of things that I can't see with my eyes, right? And one of those being energy and kind of the flow of that energy. And so today I'm talking with Nate Zeleznick, who is a master at breathwork and energy and how to channel these elements in a way where you become grounded, clear, focused. And in fact, he's going to walk us through a breathing exercise. And I kind of become the student in the room. So sit down, relax, listen to this kind of wild, crazy, exciting conversation. I'm going to invite you to be open and find something for you in today's conversation. I know I had an incredible experience learning this less than 5-minute breathwork exercise that he walks us through. And I'm going to invite you to experience it just like I did. Let's hop in. Welcome to What's Working Now. I'm your host, Katie Richardson. We have an incredible guest today. His name's Nate Zeleznick. And Nate has a really incredible skill set that helps aid, supports high performers like you and me. And today we're going to do something. Maybe if you're driving, like pull over while you listen to this, because Nate's going to guide us through some really incredible stuff. Nate has an ability to help us unlock our latent abilities, something that I'm personally really fascinated about and really excited to learn from him and his skill set. So Nate, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Katie. I appreciate it. It's a pleasure to be here, and hello to everyone out there.
So you're a man who comes from the world of breath work, energy work, and I would say like Eastern type philosophies. And I'm super curious to hear, you mentioned you live in Utah. Mm-hmm. How does a man like you get really deeply immersed in these really ancient artworks and philosophy? Tell us the story of maybe an experience that has formed and shaped how you view the world today.
Sure. So my story is just like anyone else's, except for no one else's but mine. So in the fact that we're all one in many ways. So my journey began about 45 years ago when, well, my parents are actually ski bums from Northern California who moved to Utah for skiing. They were going to move to Vail, and they skied once at Alta, Utah, and they're like, we're moving there after college. So I landed in Utah. That was before I was born. And well, I was raised in a very small town, and I was quite the outsider. I was not like the other kids. So I had a lot of bullying from teachers, even from scout leaders, but mainly from my students and for my peers. And so what happened then is every single day I would get beat up. I would be tortured, really tortured. I was the punching bag because I was always the smallest one in my grade, But here's the interesting thing. I called that in for a reason. And I do take responsibility for every single thing that has happened in my life. And so when I was about 12, I started having spontaneous out-of-body experiences where my consciousness would leave my body. I would see my body laying there and my body would be paralyzed, and it didn't hurt. As a matter of fact, it was the most freeing feeling you could even imagine. And I would travel sometimes and go see different places. And sometimes I would just go right back into my body. And I didn't know what was happening. So around the age of 16, well, actually, I turned 16 in one day. The very first thing I bought with my own money was a book on out-of-body experiences. And I really went deep into the science of non-local function of consciousness and human potential. Now, what I do is very different than anybody else in the country, almost anybody else. There's only one other person that is authorized to do what I do. And so when I was 16, I started on this real strong spiritual path, also as a martial artist, because growing up, I wanted to be a ninja and a Jedi. I wanted to be a ninja-Jedi. I wanted to be both. Obviously, in an old farm town, I only had one opportunity to really practice martial arts, and that was on my brothers. My younger brothers, they didn't appreciate that much, but we kind of got good at martial arts. But I really wanted formal training because I was always just enamored by the amazing feats that martial artists could do. So I started my training when I was 16. And when I was 23, I had what I call a synchrodestiny. Now, everybody I'm sure has had a synchronicity. You're like, there's no way that just happened. but I call it a synchrodestiny because it changed my life from that second on. And what this was it started with me, like a lot of people that are in the martial arts. They had a subscription. We had a subscription to Black Belt magazine. This is back in the days of physical magazines because there was no internet. And I ordered a course that guaranteed me inner power in 2 weeks. And I'm like, sold,
Hey,
sold. I get
yeah.
chi in 2 weeks. And the course came, and it was the chintziest little manual with stick figures drawn in there. It didn't actually have anything of value, but it did have a VHS tape. Now, this VHS tape showed Indonesian martial arts, and I didn't even know where Indonesia was. I knew I had some shirts from there, but I didn't know where it was. I'm like, geography wasn't my strongest class. So I was like, wow, when I saw the beauty and the power of what these people were doing, I was floored. I'd never seen anything like it before. Well, on this tape, it showed some things that I had never seen before, except for in Star Wars. One of which was, you see people in martial arts and they focus all their anger and their power and they break bricks and boards. Well, these people were breaking steel. They were breaking iron. They were breaking stacks of stone. And I'm like, no way. That's crazy. And these are smaller Southeast Asian people, sometimes just barely touching it and always with a smile on their face. I'm like, well, that's a lot different. But then it showed people who were doing superhuman feats. So when I say superhuman, it's really future human. So these people were blindfolded or they were blind and they were able
Okay.
to do anything that you or I do. They were running through obstacle courses. They were driving cars through just traffic, normal Jakarta traffic. If anybody's ever been to Southeast Asia, you understand there is no such thing as normal traffic. So
Huh.
it's the most hectic, crazy, unbelievable. Oh my gosh, no way. I'm going to die in 5 seconds kind of traffic. And they're just going no problem on motorcycles and cars. And it even had military
Blind.
people, blindfolded and blind. Yeah.
Okay.
And military people. And that caught my eye too, because I'm like, military using this. And had hoods on. They were shooting targets out of people's hands. And then it showed blind people, a couple blind men, and their eyes were as white as a sheet. And they were
Mm.
able to read printed material. And I'm like, no way. It can't be. But wait a minute. I've had all these experiences that I can't explain.
Okay.
I know that I can leave my body and I perceive without being in a physical form. Maybe Jedis are real. And I left it at that because it was all in Indonesian. I didn't understand any of it. I was just like, wow, I just saw something cool. Yay. But the next day is when that synchro destiny happened. And I was right there up here in Ogden, Utah, by the Utah Schools for the Deaf and Blind. And I watched a blind woman almost die in front of me.
Mm.
She was going to cross the street with her dog. And instead of being led across the street, she was led face first into the light pole. And I was like, ding, ding, ding. Oh my gosh. I wonder if those Indonesian people can help her.
Mm.
And so I made it a mission. It was like a spiritual imperative. I had to find those people to see if they could help her. I can't explain it, Katie. I never met a blind person in my life. I knew that it wouldn't be my preference to be blind. That would be like, for me, the last thing that I would want, but I just had to help her. And so I went to the
Can you
library.
tell us a little bit more about that moment? Because I think so many people in their life are kind of looking for that purpose.
Mhm.
And clearly you found that in that moment. Was it so clear that this was this deeply rooted thing that you wanted to go seek after and search after? Or was it just like this spark of curiosity? I want to know, like, did you know in that moment it was this really profound moment? Or as you look back, you see that it was so profound?
I knew it was profound at that moment.
Mm.
Yes, I knew I had to do this. Now, granted, my higher self, my soul, my spirit had been preparing me for this moment since I was about 12. So it was something that, I was actually I was living out my dream. I was a customer service representative at a financial company for Visa cards. Yay. So I was not doing what I really wanted to do in my life because I
Okay.
was wanting to be that ninja Jedi, right? And so when I saw that, and I've always had this deep, mm, I would call it a need to help other people less fortunate. I've always wanted to do that. And it's been something that just always I'm drawn to. And so for me, it was you need to follow this. And no matter what, win, lose, or draw, whatever, find out where they are. And the thing is that it was really difficult because right about the time I saw that woman is when they launched their first website. And so this is the very start of the internet. It was back in, well, not the very start, but it was 1998. So
Yeah.
very early. We were all on dial-up and
Oh yeah.
they had just barely, I mean, that was back in the web crawler days. Google was not even out. So, this
AOL, baby.
AOL, yep. And so I was able to find them though. And I reached out to them and I was able to sponsor, after 9 months, I was able to sponsor the very first demonstration of this art, which is called Marpati Putti. No, that sounds funny, but Marpati means dove and Putti means white. So it's the white
Mhm.
dove system from the royal family of Central Java, Indonesia, which was handed down from the king to their heir for 11 generations.
Mm.
And this is an art that, beyond allowing people to see without their eyes, there are amazing things, health benefits, stress relief benefits, libido. We'll just say a lot of people's marriages have been saved because of this breath work that is
Mhm.
truly unique. So the people that have done Wim Hof or they've done holotropic, they've done
Mhm.
5D breath work, this is not that. This is completely on the other end of the spectrum of hypoxic and hypoventilation training rather than hyperventilation over oxygenation. And
Mm.
there's a lot of science behind both types of breath work being very beneficial in the body in different ways. So one thing that really drew me to this, Katie, is that yes, okay, superhuman abilities, but it's a method. It's a
Mm.
method that if you have a
Mhm.
body, you can do this. And I'll be honest, when I was able to bring these people over here and I saw blind people that were able to do these things, it was overwhelming. It was so emotional for me because I was like, holy crap, Jedis are real. Like
Mm.
these people, it's legitimate. Their eyes are white and I blindfolded them and they drove my freaking car around the
Mm.
block. And I'm sitting right next to them. And I was like, okay, so what do I have to do to help make this happen in the United States to help blind people? Now, to be clear, they had never trained a non-Indonesian person ever. It was forbidden. Just like a
Okay.
lot of just like a lot of martial arts.
Yeah.
It's kept in the country of origin until one of the masters decides to unleash it to, well, I say unleash because then it takes off like wildfire. And so Bruce Lee helped bring Kung Fu to the United States. Jun Rhee brought Taekwondo from Korea to the United States. There are these people that are the trendsetters, and that was myself. And so the thing is I knew I was not going to be able to train. I just wanted to help them.
Mm.
And so I brought a team over here and I got to see these people and meet with them. And I arranged demonstrations around the country and we got to travel and
Mhm.
we got to demonstrate this for foreign dignitaries, or actually their dignitaries, like the Indonesian ambassador. Not foreign. It would be foreign for us, but not for
Okay.
them. And,
Yeah.
when we did this and I got to see what was happening, I was like, I know I'm going to devote my life to this. And then when they were about to leave, Katie, this is the coolest part. There just happened to be this guy, this Indonesian guy in Salt Lake City who met me at the airport when they got there. And he's like,
Okay.
hey, I'm a doctor and I'm good friends with one of the 11th generation heirs to Merpati Putti, and I'm going to hang out with you guys. And I'm like, hey, good to meet you. And that sounds good. But when they were going to leave, they said, he's going to be your trainer. And I'm like, wait a minute, what? What are you talking about? No, 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 no. I just want to help you. And they're like, how are you going to help us if you don't know what we do? I'm like, good
Mm.
point. Oh man. But it turns out this guy was a former Indonesian Special Forces trainer of the Merpati Putih breathwork, which this breathwork, Katie, this is standard training for every branch of the Indonesian military, every branch. And it has been
Mm.
for 40 years because it's so effective at helping people who under the most high pressure situations. Right? This is
Okay.
really relevant for CEOs
Okay.
and for business
Yeah.
people. When you're under the gun, you have to make strong, powerful decisions when you have a very limited time and you need
Yeah.
to see things from that 50,000-foot view or
You
even
do.
the 50,000 light year view, the big one. This helps you step back out of your subjective experience and
Mhm.
experience this from a much larger perspective, which when we look at things that are win, win, win,
Yeah.
we really, a lot of times, for me, and I can only speak for myself, but for myself, sometimes that win-win-win is not the actual ultimate win-win-win situation. It's
Hmm.
just a situation where it is win-win-win, right? And we're like, yay, hooray, it's win for everybody. But is it the biggest win? Is it the best win? Is it the win in the highest good of all? Like that, truly the highest good. That's one thing that Marpati Putti, and now my integrated ascension method, that's the name of my business, helps
Okay.
people do, especially for business people. A lot of my clients are professional athletes, high level CEOs, influencers, people who can then make these decisions that affect
Yeah.
millions of people in a positive way. And
Yeah.
for me, like I said, I've always wanted to help people and I want to
I
help
love
millions
this.
of people. But if I'm going to do that, I'm going to have to do it from the top down because that's the way to affect systemic change. Not grassroots is good, and I've done that for 24 years with one of the largest martial arts and meditation schools in Utah, or maybe the country. But now, to affect millions, you can't not do that one by one. You have to be able to get to the ones that can affect millions and help them. And so, I hope that answers your
100%.
question.
Yeah. That's,
I took everybody on a journey there.
no, it's quite fascinating to hear that. And one of the things I've really been curious about with breath work is really more specifically, what is it doing to help and benefit? And one of the things that I heard you say is it's creating a higher, greater perspective, like clarity on a whole nother level. And I had
Mhm.
never seen it in that way or considered it in that way. And so I think that's something that's really fascinating and interesting. Can you explain to us? I know a lot of what you do is an art, and sometimes art is more about like energy and beauty and poetry than it is actually the science.
Mm.
What is happening as somebody, I mean, as you are kind of shifting your breathing into these really specific patterns, what's starting to happen inside of somebody's body and mind that then creates this new perspective and new level of clarity?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Okay, for everybody out there who is science-minded, like myself, and that's one thing I really loved about Marpati Putti, Katie. It is not as woo-woo as you might think. So yeah, the thing is, seeing without eyes, she's like, oh wow, that's amazing, but that's too far out there for me. But if you think about this, the ancient Egyptians said that we have 360 senses, not five. So
Love it.
what did they know that we don't know? And they would just train their children to do these things as a matter of this is how humans are. And we've forgotten those things. So it's not like we're doing anything that is superhuman. I would say this is future human because all
Mm,
we're doing is bringing back what's already there. We're not doing anything, we're not giving anybody abilities that is not already in there. Okay. It's not like plastic surgery where somebody now looks different. So instead, we're teaching people how to do things to anti-age. And that is
mm-hmm.
actually one of the benefits of this art. So back to your question, when we think about this, number one, we think about breath. Now, a lot of people don't know, and these are some important facts that everybody needs to know because I think that all of your listeners and viewers, they would all love to have the longest health span possible, right?
Sure.
Well, here's the thing. Most people have been on a cleanse, right? You go on a liver cleanse or a juice cleanse, or you get the Kanoki foot pads and you take this stuff out of your feet. But did you know that 70% or more of all the toxins in our breath, in our body, are released through our breath?
Mm,
It's not about what you're eating nearly as much
mm,
as how you're breathing. The second thing is a study that I just read a couple of weeks ago. It was stating that in large scale studies, the number one most important factor in longevity is your breath capacity for disease prevention and longevity that way. Car accidents don't count. Okay, that's an accident. But as far as living a long life, the number one determinant in longevity is your lung capacity. But here's what's scary about that. The hyperventilation, the fast breathing breath work, they don't increase your
mm.
lung capacity because lung capacity is not built on how much you can inhale. It's based upon how much you can fully exhale. And they don't do
Okay.
that. They don't focus on
Okay.
that, not a full exhalation. So a lot of people have never actually fully exhaled in their whole life, at least not repeatedly. And that's something that we specialize in the integrated ascension method is working on how do we maximize our lung capacity for longevity. Now, why this is
Okay.
also relevant is that other studies that have been done have shown that about 90% or more of the human population check this out, only uses about 15% of their lung capacity. That's it, 15%. So since lung capacity, longevity, 15%, I have to ask everybody out there, are you one of the less than 10% that actually uses 100% or more than 15% of your lung capacity? Or are you like everybody else, breathing unconsciously? I would
Is there
survive.
is there a way for us to test that, Nate?
No, there's no way to really test that other than your own observation.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
because once you start observing, you're like, you start breathing more, then problem solved.
Okay. Okay.
But it's when we have a couple really detrimental things happening with breath that are actually recent. So I think most people are familiar with sleep apnea, right? Where you're sleeping, you stop breathing while you're sleeping,
Mhm.
and this leads to all kinds of heart problems, can lead to strokes. It's really negative for our health. And that's what the
Mhm.
CPAP machines are for, that breathe
Yeah.
for you, et cetera. Well, there's something else called email apnea. And this happens when people are scrolling Instagram. This happens when people are doing mindless tasks. They wind up holding their breath while they're awake. And they wind up doing the same thing to themselves while they're awake as sleep apnea causes when you're asleep. This is now a well-known medical condition, and it's being
Mhm.
studied. It's actually a lot of people in the breath world, medical, they're saying that this is an epidemic, email apnea,
Mm.
because it's causing all these detrimental health effects, and people are just not even paying attention to it. So this is really relevant for everybody because everybody wants to number one, be healthy. We want to live a long time. We want to have the best performance possible. We want to enjoy our life.
Mhm.
But I think everybody out there can agree that it's really hard to do any of those things if you're sick. So breathing ourselves back to health is definitely possible for a lot of things. Not everything, but for a lot of things.
Okay, wait. Are
But
you saying like if I start to feel like I'm getting a cold coming on, can I like are there some breath work practices I can do to
yes,
like boost my immune system and like overcome?
yep,
Okay.
absolutely. Yep, absolutely. So especially with the integrated ascension method, the Marpati Putti breath work,
Hmm.
it's really beneficial in this because what we do actually raises our core temperature slightly. Now,
Okay.
this, a lot of people are familiar with Wim Hof, and he's done all these amazing things, set all these world records. He's climbed Mount Everest in his underwear. He's done all these things as the Iceman, right? In this
Yeah.
cold, and he's able to do things that are quote unquote superhuman, but they're not. They're actually very human. You just have to train for it, and he admits that for sure. And he's a
Yeah.
big proponent of that, right? And so am I. Well, here's the thing: when you go and you do, say, the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, you pour freezing cold water over yourself, you feel such a rush of heat from inside. Now, in Russia, they've been doing this for hundreds, maybe thousands of years for children all the way through adults. And there's a real big reason for this. It makes a lot of sense that your body's response to immediate cold, the cold shock proteins that happen in your body, yes, but your body also raises its core temperature. It's like a flash fever. And when
Yeah.
that happens, as we know, viruses and bacteria, harmful ones, they have a certain range of temperatures that they can survive in. That's why,
Hmm.
cats have a higher body temperature than us. So we probably aren't going to get a cold that our cat has. And they probably aren't going to get the cold that we have because the temperature is the wrong temperature for that animal, for that virus. Anyway, so the thing is with the integrated ascension method, these breathwork techniques by themselves, without pouring cold water on yourself, raise our core temperature for a short amount of time and burn out viruses. So we've had a lot
Okay,
of,
hold on. Because I've
yeah,
done cold therapy. I do not like the cold, and I have to like really make myself get into the cold freezer, and I don't like it. I hate it. Quick question for you. What would happen in your business and life if you could show up powerfully? As a coach to high performing entrepreneurs, I help intelligent people like you do just that. And if you want to be inspired by people who are getting more done in 90 days than most people do all year, I'm going to invite you to go check out my case studies. The website is now.katierichardson.com/case study. And the cool thing is we've got so many case studies there. You can find an entrepreneur who's just like you. I've also got a link for you down in the show notes. Okay, back to the show. You're saying I can get a similar result, similar outcome by breath work. You don't even need an ice bath.
no, Not necessarily. I think that I do both because biohacking is part of the
Okay.
integrated prevention method. So
Okay.
I'm a big fan of the cold. What can I say?
Hey.
My last name's Zeleznick. In Russia,
Yeah.
it's pronounced Zeleznick. So yeah,
Okay.
I've got it in my blood to be cold
Okay.
sometimes.
Okay. So you've mentioned this. I can't pronounce it accurately, but you've mentioned
Merpati.
this. Yes,
Yeah.
Mapati Putti. You've
Yeah.
mentioned it multiple times. Would you be open to illustrating to us what this actually looks like? We've been talking about it. Now can we see it? Can you walk us through
Yeah.
this
Well,
process?
so with the Merpati Putti, I'll be full disclosure. It is a method that is not a follow along and do this. It takes some time to actually learn
Okay.
this method, and that's what the thing. It's so unique.
Sure.
You couldn't actually stumble upon it. I don't know exactly how the Sultan and his heirs developed this. All I can tell you
Okay.
is there's nothing else like it, and it works quickly. And I can actually tell you a story uh,
Interesting.
in a moment. But what I would love to do is walk you through a basic breathwork
Okay.
exercise right now that is considered the quote unquote perfect breath. Now, what this does is we're going to breathe in through our nose and out through our mouth. That's the basics. When we breathe in, we're going to allow our stomach to extend, drawing the air as deep into our lungs as possible on the inhalation. And then as it fills up, we're not filling up our stomach, but as our stomach extends to the maximum, we're going to
Okay.
keep inhaling into the upper lobes of the lungs up into the chest. We want to make sure that we're not raising our shoulders and tensing our neck, okay? We're going to have our eyes closed, or if you're driving, you can totally do this too. I recommend people do this breath cadence anytime they are reminded of it or remember to do it,
Okay.
because this breath cadence of 5.5 seconds inhale, 5.5 seconds exhale. It's very interesting that almost every religion in the world, whether it's Hindu, Christian, Buddhist, the chanting and the prayers, almost all of them follow the same, almost exactly same cadence. 5.5 seconds
Interesting.
inhale, 5.5 seconds for the exhale. And so for thousands of years, humans have known that this is the perfect breath cadence. Now, what this does, and you can expect to feel very relaxed, it moves us into a parasympathetic dominant state of rest and digest. I've also heard it called feed and breed. Okay, so where everything's okay and we're nice and relaxed. Our body is not under stress. We're not producing as much cortisol, and we get into a very content state. Now, this is also a full breath in and a full breath out until we squeeze a little bit extra out. So we're not just
Okay.
breathing until we're like, oh, I breathed all the way out. No, breathe all the way out and then a little bit more. Okay.
Okay.
So all the way in, all the way out. We're only going to go for about 5 minutes on this. But the biggest benefit, Katie and everybody out there, is if you can close your eyes, close your eyes. If you're driving, flying a plane, you are slacklining or skydiving, do not close your eyes, okay? But
Okay.
anything else besides that, if you
And
can,
it's in through the nose,
in through your
out through the
nose,
mouth. Okay.
out through the mouth, in through the nose, out through the mouth. And I actually have some meditation tones that will lead you through
All
how to do.
right.
So these are cello tones. So you'll hear the inhale and the exhale. I'll tell you what to do for the first few, and then I'm going to be silent and allow you to do this once in a while, because sometimes people fall asleep within a minute. I will, it depends on the person, but I will chime in a little bit to relax your face, relax your neck, exhale, let all your tension go. As you inhale, feel the energy coming into your body, this healthy energy, and just visualize it. Just imagine what this would be like to be inhaling health and exhaling anything that doesn't serve you, anything toxic, anything harmful, anything negative. Okay. Pretty simple. Pretty simple.
Got it.
Okay. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and turn this on. And everyone, here we go. All right. I'm going to restart those tones because my player was in the middle. Here we go. Now close your eyes and begin to inhale through your nose all the way in and exhale from the top down. Breathe in through your nose, stomach extends. Let it rise up through your chest, all the way in. And exhale from the top down, all the way out through your mouth. Squeeze a little bit more out. Now breathe in. And breathe out fully. Breathe in health, joy, peace. exhale anything negative or stuck. Sure, on the exhale, you squeeze every little bit out and then breathe in again, full breaths. If you notice any tension in your body, just let it go. Drop your shoulders. Exhale any toxins. Just imagine them leaving your mouth. Exhale all tension, and if you notice your mind starting to wander, just bring yourself back to your breath, inhaling gratitude, this amazing breath of life, and exhale, feeling all the negativity or toxins leaving your body. Focus deeply inside your breath as you inhale and exhale. Left, breathe in and exhale and relax. Now focus on gratitude, breathing in appreciation, gratitude and love into your body. Exhale any kind of emotion that does not serve your peace. Very good. So now, being fully aware of your body and your breath, start to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Bring some somatic sensation back to your body. As you do, you can start to roll your shoulders forward and backwards, bring yourself back by moving your body just a little bit. And when you're ready and you want to open your eyes, instead of opening your eyes to see the world and look outward, open your eyes and just allow the world to come in. Very good. So much of the time we spend our time in our life looking outward into the world for how we can affect the world instead of actually in a state of awareness, stillness, presence, and peace, and allowing the world to come in so that we can perceive so much more of it. So this exercise also helps us do that. For any high performance CEOs or business people out there, if you do this breath work for 3 or 4 minutes before you go into a hectic meeting, just notice the level of peace that you have. And also, don't be surprised if the other people in that room attune to your level of peace because of how and who you are being in that moment.
Neat.
How you feel?
This is amazing. This is really incredible. I want to share kind of externalize what I was experiencing in those 5 minutes.
Please share.
At the beginning, it was a little bit tricky because, developing this rhythm of pushing my stomach out. My body didn't want to push my stomach out. I think it's a result of a couple different things. Like, I've struggled with my core strength a lot of my life. I was born with a herniated belly button, but I was a gymnast. And so I had to develop my core strength in other ways. And then even having 10-pound babies, 10-pound babies like that really stretched out my core too. And so I'm really habituated and practiced and like pulling in and trying to increase my core strength. And so there was this kind of battle between my mind saying, let go, and my body saying, no, I need to hold in. And so it took a little bit for my body to relax enough that I could push my stomach out and go through that rhythm. And it took a little while. In the beginning, it had to be really conscious what I was doing. And then as I started to move into that rhythm, immediately I saw the two different places that I hold tension in my body. It's in my neck, and I have dislocated the shoulder like 20 times. And about 15, 20 years ago, I had surgery on it. Since then, I've even still dislocated my shoulder 5 times. And I've noticed that it will come out in moments where I'm really just overwhelmed and stressed. And it will come out doing the silliest things, reaching for something in the backseat of the car, and it'll just pop out. And so as we were doing this, I could feel that place that I hold tension in my shoulder. And I tried to just notice it and not tense up even more. And then I also noticed the other place I have tension, which is my SI joint. For years, I've just always had consistent low grade pain in that hip. And again, I think a lot of it is a result of 10-pound babies, and it just, they left their mark.
Yeah.
And so about a couple minutes in, like at first, all my attention had to be on the rhythm of the breathing, that I didn't notice it at first, but then I started to get into the rhythm. Then I noticed the tension, but I just kept going. And then pretty soon, and I will tell you, just recently, I've been doing a lot of rolling of my neck and shoulders because I've been feeling it a lot lately. And within a couple minutes, Nate, we just kept breathing. It was gone. And that's really rare for me. So the fact that I didn't have to go to a doctor, I didn't have to go to a massage therapist, I didn't have to leave the comforts of my home. And literally in a couple minutes, we released that pain and that tension and that stress. And I don't even feel it right now. That's amazing. That's really incredible. And those things are distractions in my life, right? The work that I do requires me to be super present with somebody. And so when I have pain, even if it's low grade pain, that pulls me out of that presence, and it has me caught up in the distractions or the noise of what's happening in my body. And so it took almost the full 5 minutes before I really felt like because then I started to notice this elevated feeling, this lightheaded feeling, but I had some resistance to that because it was having me feel a little bit dizzy at first, and I didn't know if I could trust it. And I was a little bit unsure, but I just kept going and following it. And then pretty soon I felt really centered, but in a lighter way. And so then the kind of lightheaded dizziness passed. It felt really grounded and centered and free of the pain. And it only took 5 minutes to get there. So that was really fascinating, super fascinating.
Wonderful. Katie, thank you for sharing that for me and for everybody out there.
Yeah.
And here's an interesting thing, I've got a couple different online programs, one of which is my masterclass, in which case one of the modules is specifically devoted to using our breath in a very specific way with focus to eliminate pain. So that's
Mm.
wonderful you did that. It's a different type of breath work than what you just did.
Okay.
But my original martial arts instructor in Merpati, when I first met him, he had had his back fractured in a fighting tournament, a Merpati fighting tournament in
Okay.
Indonesia about a decade before. And he was able to use that breathwork technique to not use any kind of drugs, pain-killing drugs, even though the
Mm.
spinous process on three of his vertebrae, the back of his backbone, was completely removed by the doctors, and his spinal cord was exposed. And he was
Wow.
able to do that by using a specific breath work. So in the integrated ascension method, we have all kinds of things like that. I'm so happy you got
Mhm.
those results. And thank you for
Yeah.
sharing. That's one of the most succinct explanations of a transformation, especially in pain, but
Mhm.
also in peace. This
Yeah.
all comes down to, in China, qi is considered to come from the air. It's a solar phenomenon. They say that it gets trapped in the atmosphere by the sun's radiation, and then we breathe
Mm.
it in to our body, the yang qi.
Mm.
So there's yin and yang. And so when we focus on our breath, we start to breathe more of this life force in, and then we direct it for how we want. And amazing things happen. So if you're not seeing without, I don't know, what would be more important to everybody out there? Would you rather see without your eyes, or would you rather just live a life pain-free where you're able to be focused and at peace?
Yeah.
Which one? How about both? It is actually possible for
Yeah.
some people to do that one, but for the blindfolded thing, very few people can actually do that. But for the inner peace,
Yeah.
absolutely. If you have lungs, this will work. If you have a body, if you don't have a body, I can't really help you. In which case, you don't really need breath work. But thank you.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, it has such application to our audience because every entrepreneur is living a multidimensional life. And I would say, especially if you have a spouse and kids and you pay attention to your health and your wellness spiritually and physically, there's so many variables in your life, and it can be really overwhelming to try and be grounded and centered in all of those things. And what's really cool is this practice of breath work that you just illustrated to us. I can see how it has application and benefit in all of those areas. And it takes 5 minutes a day. It's really quite incredible. And, you showed a real application, right? As an entrepreneur about to go into maybe pitching potential investors or a high ticket client, and you can start to feel that stress, which then has you caught up in the noise, maybe even in the pain of your body. And then you're distracted. You're not focused. You're not grounded. You're not in your power. And you can do this really powerful exercise minutes before entering the room. And I just, I can feel it in my body right now. I feel different now on the other side of that than I did in the beginning of our conversation. So it
Beautiful.
absolutely has application.
Yeah,
Now, so you do breath work. We didn't even talk about energy. And I know we only have a couple of minutes left. Tell us how this breath work is connected to energy, because I'm really fascinated by that. And I feel like I've experienced when I'm in alignment and how that can kind of impact my external world, but I don't necessarily understand the mechanics of it.
sure. So in Indonesia, there have been some large studies that have been done showing that, especially with the breath work for the integrated ascension method, the Merpati breath work, very different than what we just did because there's a lot of breath holding,
I'm
that
sure.
it has a strong mitochondrial activation effect. So mitochondria are the powerhouses for energy in every one of our 37 trillion cells. Well, maybe not that many because blood cells don't, I don't think, have those, but it helps to actually maximize the energy in our cells, every single one of our cells. Now, this is just a physical
Which
level.
is
I'll give
kind of
you,
cool because, like, when I'm in those moments where I'm really grounded into my power, my husband says I'm buzzing. He's like, "You're
yes,
buzzing right now,"
yes.
and that's what that sounds like.
Well, like Tesla said, if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of frequency and vibration, right? And I'm
Mhm.
paraphrasing there, but every single thing. Even Einstein said there is no matter. Everything in the universe is simply light that is slowed down for us to be able to perceive it. On a subatomic level, there is no matter. It does not exist. So when people say an atom, they don't know what they're actually talking about, because it's been found that what is happening is subatomic particles, all of them are phasing in and out of reality about a septillionth of a second. So in actuality, this does not exist. We're perceiving it as being real. And that, granted, that's a great theory that doesn't really
Sure.
apply when you stub your toe, right? That's real. But the thing is that everything is vibration, information, and frequency. Everything
Yeah.
in the universe
Yeah.
is. And so, and people who don't believe that, I'm like, go stand in an X-ray machine for 55 or 60 minutes and see what happens in a year. Yeah, that frequency is going to do some damage to your cells, and you're going to have a cancerous problem there, right?
Mhm.
So everything is frequency. So when we start breathing and we start taking in this life-giving, this breath of life into our body, first of all, mitochondrial activation has been found. Second thing is an acid-base shift. So it's been found with this particular kind of breathing and other ones as well. We move our blood from a more acidic state to an alkaline state, and that's been shown to have more of a strong anti-cancer benefit, anti-tumor benefit, and a lot of health. Uh, we have a very acidic diet with, especially with all the sugar and the processed foods. So to move us into a more alkaline state, very beneficial for our health, and that is also energy. Now, when it comes down to carbon dioxide and oxygen, a lot of people don't know this, but carbon dioxide is the most important chemical in the entire body. It's the only chemical that is only thing that is produced by every single one of our cells, except for maybe our hair, teeth, and our nails, because those are not alive. But the thing is we are all carbon dioxide deficient. That's being well known now, and it's been known for a long time that if we raise our CO2 level and we raise our oxygen level and it stays high,
Mhm.
carbon dioxide is the catalyst to release oxygen from the hemoglobin in your blood cells into your cells. So the thing is if we're over oxygenated, the blood holds on to those blood cells. It doesn't want to release them because it doesn't have the
Mhm.
carbon dioxide to do so. So
Okay.
with the integrated ascension method, the real breath work exercises, which I mean, people who are interested, they can go and get these on my website. They're different than what we just did. But
Yeah.
right away, you want to talk about 5 minutes to power up before a meeting, you will walk in, your aura is expanded. People sometimes will feel you walk into the room before you walk into the room because of who you are being and the frequency that you're generating. And now we have a lot of machines and technology that can start to measure these
Mhm.
auric fields, like the BioWell machine, which I am certified in, that will show the amount of energy that you're generating. And so these things combined, along with what I do, especially for my elite, my executive clients, whether it's a
Mhm.
team of like a C-suite or an entire team of a company, or it's the CEO themselves directly one-on-one, I don't just bring in the white dove, sorry, the Marpati Putti, which means white dove, by the way. That's what Marpati
Okay.
Putti means. So my company went from Marpati Putti USA to white dove method, but now that I've added in things like biohacking, vibroacoustic technology, energy diagnostics, emotion code and body code therapy, which I'm a certified practitioner in both as well, pyramid and tachyon energy technologies, which your whole body vibrates. It's so cool. And brain training with neural feedback. I've brought in so many technologies from the 21st century. It can't be the white dove method anymore. It has to be integrated ascension because that's what it does. I do that for
Okay.
my elite clients. And so people will have amazing tools that no other program in the world right now offers, except for me. These things all in conjunction. So with that said, when we think of energy, a lot of people think woo woo, oh, the chi stuff, it doesn't really exist. It's like, okay, so now we've got things that can measure this. And the thing is, the people that know and do it, they feel a difference. Let's say it doesn't exist, but when you do these things, you feel much better. Does it matter? You
No,
feel
I don't.
better. That's what's
Yeah.
more important. If you
Yeah.
feel better, you're healthier, you're going to live a longer time, you're better with your company, you're better with your team, you're better with your family, you're better with your kids, you're better at your church if you go to church and you feel more connected to source. That's what
Yeah.
these exercises do for people who want to apply it that way. And I have to say, Katie, of all the things that I've done, I've seen so many things that are very boxy, meaning that you're stuck in this box. You can't go outside this box. I decided to add more into Merpati Putti to help people be more unbound from
Mm.
limitation.
Hmm.
Because, like I said, I started out of body experience training when I was young. And Bob Monroe, the founder of the Monroe Institute in Faber, Virginia, which is where the CIA actually sent spies, psychic spies, to learn how to remote view on the Soviets. I mean, the government used these people. Um, one of his famous quotes that I love, and I'll paraphrase this, is the only limitation that man has is believing that he is in any way limited.
Hmm.
And that's so true. But a lot of people don't know that. But once you take that journey, and you take a
Yeah.
journey with me, let's say you get a
Yeah.
free class on my website, and even that one, and you step into that, once you ring that bell and you start to understand how limited you have been and how unlimited you really are, you can't unring that bell, and your life changes from that point forward. And then all you want to do is keep going down that rabbit hole and finding out what else is there.
Right. Yeah. Nate, this has been an incredible conversation, and not just conversation, right? You brought this perfect breathing method into the room and walked us through it. And I think, I certainly experienced something, and I hope everybody who's listening took a chance to actually apply what Nate's showing us. And I know that we're just scratching the surface, and you have, like you mentioned, all of these different modalities. And so hop into the show notes, because we have links to Nate's website. And, are there other social platforms that you're active on? Do you have a podcast? Where do you connect with your audience?
Sure. Well, the best way, honestly, is through email. So if people
Oh,
go to my
cool.
website, which I don't know how I know how I called it in. I manifested this amazing website where my website, everybody I think can remember this. It's iampure.energy. So I am
Cool.
pure energy. That, I mean, that's pretty awesome. I'm like, how is
Yeah.
that available? But so I am pure.energy. People can get a free energy shielding class, which is a mental shielding class to help us be more sovereign in our mental state. But then also my free ebook, my new ebook called Awakening Transformation. You can get both of those things free on iampure.energy. And then find me on Facebook, on YouTube. I'm publishing so much more free content now in different breathwork and meditation, exercise, and inspiration pieces on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, the usual suspects. But most importantly is to get on my email list so that I can deliver this inspiration and new breathwork techniques and things that are really give you, hopefully with you and anybody else, the chance to create a better now on purpose.
Mm.
And so those are the easiest ways. Let's just come find me online, Integrated Ascension Method. Anytime you type that in, there's only one like that in one company like that in the world. So if you type in Integrated Ascension Method, which the acronym is IAM, which I thought that was pretty cool. I'm like, well, the two most powerful words in the English
I
language.
love it.
There you go. So
Yeah.
thank you so much,
Nate,
Katie. I appreciate you having me.
yeah, this has been absolutely incredible, Nate. And for everybody who's listening, the white dove method. This is what is working now.